Gregg Gothreaux with the Lafayette Economic Development Authority. We continue now. So you really love the idea that, and you've taught that to your kids, you can do anything to help another person right where you're at that moment.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So in going forward, so what do you think? Has Grace said, okay, I want to be an actress, I want to go to Hollywood? Oh, and how old is she?
She's 16.
Oh, the perfect age, right?
Yeah. Oh,
the
yeah.
perfect age.
Oh, yeah. She knows everything.
Is she? Well, that's her job, right?
That's right. That's right.
I know. I knew everything at 16. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and she wants to be an actress.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're going to facilitate that as much as we can.
Sure.
And, but we promote the idea of, just in case, have a backup plan, so
Absolutely.
get a good education.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's fantastic. Pursue your dreams.
Absolutely. You have to love what you're doing. You do.
Yeah.
And that's the passion and everything that you were speaking of and why you love what you do.
Right. So
is she driving?
Yes.
Oh, how is that going? What was that whole process like,
it's
Greg?
Very scary for me. Mom is much more of a let them go person than me. I'm the one that wants them to stay in the, it's like,
stay
Connor,
in the
wouldn't
nest,
you like to
baby
stay
bird.
home for a couple of years,
Yes.
and first couple of years of college? No,
Mm-hmm.
Elisa's like, nope, they have to get out on their own. And so the minute Grace could drive, she did, and she is. And she goes to school at ESA,
Mm-hmm.
which is a 30-minute drive.
Right, yeah.
And she does it every day, and I'm proud of her, but I'm nervous.
I was going to say, kind of nerve-wracking a little bit, right?
Yes.
So were you, when it comes to driving or different things, I mean, obviously, Grace is ready to tackle stuff. Were you like that as a kid, or were you kind of more of a late bloomer, do you think?
No, I drove when I was 15. I got a license and drove.
Remember when we used to be able to do that?
Yeah. I mean, I was a late bloomer otherwise. I just, I was, like I said, sheltered till I got to college. But we didn't know we were late bloomers. We were small town kids. Mm-hmm. I mean, really small town, 3,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
Class of 100. The largest graduating class in the history of my high school, 101.
Whoa.
And so it was, we didn't realize we were so sheltered, but it was great. I mean, it's like growing up in Mayberry.
That's terrific.
I mean, life was pretty nice.
Pretty doggone good.
Yeah.
How hard do you think it is raising your kids in this world now?
Well, I worry about it because there's so much.
There's a lot of negativity. We're very divisive. People can be very ugly to one another.
I don't get it, but it's that, I mean, the only thing that I respect people that are ugly to each other are the ones that do it without, being anonymous. It's just anonymous stuff that really is crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, you try to read a nice discussion about something and it devolves into a contest, and it's negative and it's everybody hiding behind some fake name.
Yeah.
Well, I don't believe in that.
Me neither.
But, on the other hand, people that wake up mad every day, that doesn't make any sense to me either.
Yeah.
But at least they'll say their name.
Right. At least they'll go forth and say, hey, here's why I don't like this. And they'll stand up. And I'm with you. That anonymous nature, I think, of things, makes things worse for all of us because it doesn't allow for good discussion.
Yes.
And, you tend to say, if you think you'll never be recognized, you tend to say some things that you would never say face to face, I think.
It's amazing what people will say online or on text. And, a friend of mine said you never really can tell a tone in a text. And I've written some texts that when you look at them, they appear to be harsh and you didn't intend it to be that way. Yeah. And so it's one of those things that, you got to be careful. Social media, I think, scares people when it comes to their kids because there's so much of that. It's also a world that is different, and that scares parents. I'm sure our parents were just as afraid of the future for us because it was different.
Yeah. I mean, I think of the times when I was a kid and, we had a little store kind of close to our home, but it was probably a good 3-4 blocks away. And, as a young kid, I wasn't allowed to ride my bicycle there,
Right.
you know, but
Right.
the older kids could.
Yeah.
So, you know, boy, talk about Mayberry, because that's, you know, I grew up in Lafayette, so, but it wasn't 3,000 people, but it was a few less than we have now.
I know, but you're a native Lafayette person. That's unusual. You know, you don't meet many of
I
those.
know, right?
Right.
But I love it here, and I have a passion for everything here.
Yeah.
Speaking of passion and speaking of Lafayette, why did you take the job at LEDA?
Well, it was interesting. I always thought I was going to be, you know, like Jack Lemmon in The Apartment, sitting there in a big office doing my job and being, you know, just one of the guys, so to speak, one of the folks. And this public service thing really, you know, I got the bug.
Mm-hmm.
And when I moved to Lafayette from Lake Charles, I was transferred in. I got involved with the Chamber and other organizations, Kiwanis, and some great groups where we worked on these kinds of civic things.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw, and, you know, coming from, it's hard to explain, but Welsh is really west. You know,
I can see that.
There are plenty of Cajuns, but nothing like around here.
Right.
And so you walk into this town, your name's Gothreaux, and wow, it was so cool. It was so cool to be part of this Cajun Creole culture where people, you know, it was what my dad experienced because he spoke only French when he was a child.
Oh, yeah.
And so he identified with all people who spoke French.
Mm-hmm.
That's why this area was multicultural before it was cool.
That's right.
And
we knew what we were doing before anybody else across the globe did,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. And so there was no doubt in my mind that I wanted to live here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into economic development with Gulf States and Energy. And this is the best position in Lafayette to have if you want to be in economic development, in my opinion. A couple of people talked me into going after the job. It didn't take a lot of talking, and we went for it, and we got it.
Tell me about your thoughts on, you know, where are we going as a city? Because we do seem, unfortunately, to be divided somewhat. But I think the pendulum is swinging back to where people come to the table and are cooperative with one another. But what do you think?
Well, you know, this community is very unique because once again, our culture is somewhat live and let live.
Yeah, yeah.
And our politics is very conservative. Mm-hmm. So people around here are pretty culturally liberal and fairly fiscally conservative.
Yeah.
Which makes interesting dynamic to observe.
It does.
You just don't want to get in the middle of it.
That's a great way to put it. Oh.
And so, where I think we're going from the standpoint of what I see, and I don't want to pretend to, understand all the ins and outs of why we should go here or there, but I will say that by 2020 we're going to be where we're going to be in terms of energy. Whether it's an up and down scenario on a regular basis or whether it's a slow and steady, it won't be like it was, but we'll be where we are. And we will be on the road to recovery from the 2014 crash. And that's what we've gone through. We've gone through a crash. We didn't feel it so much because we're incredibly diversified.
Right. It is very different than it was 30 years ago.
It is very different. And so because of that, we are in a situation where people haven't felt the desperation that we did 30 years ago. Because, they say people come together sometimes in the toughest of times. Well, we haven't experienced tough times since 30 years ago. And it's easy to be a little lazy and a little casual and a little bit negative when things haven't been that tough. And so I believe they're tough enough, and our diversification is a challenge enough to bring us back together. That's my hope. And I don't think we've separated as much as people say. 200 people raising heck about something really isn't a groundswell.
Right, because it's only 200 people.
Right, they're just loud. They're just loud. And you got to just kind of work through the noise. And frankly, you know, we put our head down and we work through the noise, and we don't worry about that. Now, get back to your original question. So I go way off on tangents.
No, but that is exactly why I do this.
Cool.
I love it.
Cool. I think we've got a good future. I think it could be great. I think that it's very important that we understand and embrace the fact that we can be a leader in the Southeast United States, not only in energy, which we are, but in other areas, including technology, certainly the creative industries, entertainment, absolutely the medical industry. We've got wonderful innovators. We've got some of the biggest companies in the United States in the medical industry, in the manufacturing industry, all very diversified. If you look at the leaders, the top 10 businesses by any measure, income, employment, etc., it's a very diversified group. It's always been that. I mean, it's been that way for the last 15 years. And people just, you know, we ride high on the good times in the oil industry.
Boy, don't we?
Yes. But it's time for people to invest more in their community. Maybe instead of a condo in Florida, you know, do something for the park or whatever. But you get the idea. I think it's important that we understand that the new generation have different ideals.
They do.
And we should embrace that. You know, change isn't bad. Change is something that we should enjoy. And if we can't deal with it, just sit back and watch it instead of fighting it. But the bottom line is we've got a good future ahead in this community, and it can be great. I think it's a great community.
We are continuing our conversation. We have one small segment coming up left with Gregg Gothreaux, the Lafayette Economic Development Authority. So we are going to pick his brain a bit more coming up.